Eddie Van Halen had an extraordinary gift that came with a profound curse. He could play the guitar like no one else, but the demons inside his head taunted him relentlessly, driving him toward destructive behavior. People often speak of Eddie Van Halen and his dark side. It seemed that his incredible guitar skills were intertwined with these inner battles. For much of his life, he was caught in a vicious cycle of intense creativity, followed by brutal bouts of substance abuse, a cycle that would shape both his career and personal life. The big question is, how did this cycle begin? The answer lies in his early life. In case you thought that Van Halen was just a catchy name, know that Eddie started his life in the Netherlands, where Van is as common as clogs and windmills. He was born on January 26, 1955, in Amsterdam to a Dutch musician and his Indo wife. Shortly after Eddie's birth, the family moved to the small town of Nyan, where life was far from idyllic. Because of their mixed-race background, Eddie and his brother Alex faced severe discrimination from their peers, enduring taunts and slurs that marked their childhood. Seeing how badly the boys were treated, their parents made a dramatic decision to uproot the family and move to America. In 1962, the Van Halen family arrived in Pasadena, California, where they lived with relatives. The transition was difficult. With limited English skills, Eddie's parents took menial jobs. His mother worked as a maid, while his father became a janitor. They were so poor that they had to share a house with two other families. Life in America proved to be tough, and once the boys started school, things only got worse. Arriving with almost no English, they quickly became targets for bullying. Eddie's classmates would tear up his homework and even make him eat sand on the playground. The family had moved across the world only to face similar disrespect. Desperate for an escape from their harsh reality, both Eddie and Alex turned to music as a refuge. They began piano lessons at the age of 6, but Eddie struggled with traditional music theory and reading notes. Instead, he learned by watching performances of classical composers like Mozart and Bach, quickly picking up the skills needed to play on his own. By the age of 10, Eddie entered the Long Beach City College piano competition and won first prize, much to his father's pride. However, Eddie was more inspired by rock bands like the Beatles and the Dave Clark Five than classical music. When Alex bought a guitar, Eddie decided to pick up a drum kit to explore his musical talents. One day, while Alex was experimenting on Eddie's drums, Eddie had a life-changing realization. His brother was exceptionally talented. Although it was Eddie who had bought the drums, he decided to switch to the electric guitar, recognizing his true passion. The brothers formed a band called the Broken Combs, performing at their elementary school. While it may have been a small start, it solidified Eddie's resolve to become a professional musician. While Eddie's father supported his son's musical aspirations, his mother did not share the same enthusiasm. When Eddie became serious about music, she attempted to discourage him, even going so far as to lock away his guitar. But Eddie's passion was unyielding, despite suffering from terrible stage fright. Seeking advice from his father, who had once been a musician, Eddie was shocked when his dad handed him a smoke and a drink to calm his nerves. This moment marked the beginning of Eddie's struggle with alcohol, a battle that would plague him for years. As he grew older, Eddie's drinking became a coping mechanism, leading him to attend high school classes while intoxicated. Unfortunately, one of his teachers, instead of helping him quit, merely suggested different types of drinks to try, inadvertently enabling his growing dependency. Eddie's father served as an inspiration for him and Alex to pursue music, but in 1972, tragedy struck when his father lost a finger in an accident. This event served as a stark reminder of how quickly fate could take away one's dreams and aspirations. In response to the accident, Eddie dedicated himself even more to music, driven by a desire to honor his father's legacy. He and Alex formed a band called Mammoth and eventually recruited a flamboyant lead singer, David Lee Roth, who suggested they rename the band Van Halen. This decision would prove pivotal as they began to gain traction in the competitive Los Angeles music scene. Their big break came when they opened for the British band UFO, where Gene Simmons of Kiss took notice of their performance. Impressed, Simmons offered to sign them, but when he heard that they had a yogurt company interested in investing, he dismissed the idea and ripped up the contract. Undeterred, Van Halen continued to work hard to build their image, and soon, Warner Records took notice of their talent. In 1978, Van Halen released their self-titled debut album, which skyrocketed to fame, reaching the 19th spot on the Billboard charts. The album was an instant sensation, praised for its innovative sound and Eddie's groundbreaking guitar techniques. It made the band a household name almost overnight. The first thing the brothers did with their newfound wealth was pay off their father's debts, grateful for the support he had given them in pursuing their musical careers. As their fame grew, so did the temptations of a hedonistic lifestyle, and Eddie soon found himself enveloped in the excesses of rock stardom. Eddie married actress Valerie Bertinelli in 1981, but their relationship was complicated by his substance use and infidelities. Despite their deep love for one another, Eddie struggled to remain faithful, often preferring the company of his guitar and alcohol over domestic life. When Valerie joined him on tour, he would often put her in a separate bedroom, not out of a desire to see other women, but because he was deeply entangled in his own vices, which included heavy drinking and drug use. Eddie's collaboration with Michael Jackson on the hit song Beat It in 1982 brought him even more fame and recognition. He was so thrilled to work with Jackson that he refused payment for his iconic guitar solo, a gesture that showcased his passion for music. While the song topped the charts and became a massive hit, it also marked the beginning of a more chaotic chapter in Eddie's life as the demands of fame intensified. As Van Halen's concerts grew in size and notoriety, so did Eddie's substance abuse. He became known for outrageous behavior on and off stage, which led to tensions within the band, especially with David Lee Roth. After a particularly explosive argument, which involved Eddie throwing a bowl of guacamole at Roth, he contemplated quitting the band altogether. Despite these conflicts, Van Halen continued to produce music and tour, maintaining a devoted fan base. In 1985, the pressures of fame became too much, and the band disbanded. Tragically, in 1986, Eddie's father passed away, a loss that deeply affected him and was partly attributed to his own struggles with addiction. Eddie and Valerie welcomed a son, Wolfgang, in 1991, but their marriage faced many challenges. They eventually separated in 2001, and their divorce was finalized in 2005. The split was painful for both, but they remained committed to co-parenting their son. As Eddie battled his addiction to alcohol, he recognized that it had spiraled out of control. In an effort to reclaim his life, he checked into a rehab center during the same period that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame honored Van Halen. Sadly, he spent the ceremony locked away, fighting his demons, a reflection of the ongoing struggles he faced despite his monumental successes. In the end, Eddie Van Halen's life was a complex tapestry of talent, tragedy, and triumph. He passed away on October 6, 2020, at the age of 65, surrounded by loved ones who cherished him. His legacy lives on through his son, Wolfgang Van Halen, who carries on his father's musical spirit with his own band, Mammoth WVH, which pays homage to the roots of the Van Halen name. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Eddie Van Halen's life, please like, subscribe, and comment below. We'll be back with more stories soon.